What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Touchline Talk YouTube channel. Thank you so much for tuning in to this Champions League semifinal second leg recap. As always, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the content that comes out on the channel every week. Oh boy. Going to start with the drama that unfolded at the Bernabeu and then go back to Borussia Dortmund's elimination of PSG. And I don't want to spend too much time on the actual game between Bayern Munich and Real Madrid because Real Madrid weren't great. However, Vinicius was the best player on the field. Alphonso Davies scores a really good goal to give Bayern a lead they probably didn't deserve. Manuel Neuer has a horrific, uncharacteristic mistake. It's 1-1, and then immediately it's 2-1, and then you have the drama at the end, which is where I want to begin, and kind of work backward from there, and use that to project forward. The linesman apologized, which is the only thing you can do at this point. In this world of VAR, and specifically this world of VAR with semi-automated offside, there is no reason to put your flag up there. None whatsoever. There isn't anything else to it. It was a horrendous mistake. Now, who knows how things unfold if Real Madrid is still playing and the flag doesn't go up and the whistle doesn't blow. To me, it's still likely that De Ligt scores that goal and that we'll go into extra time. And Bayern have every right to feel robbed because that should have been allowed to play out, and I do think he was onside. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't, but it was way too close to be making, and especially when the instructions from the very beginning of the VAR introduction have been, don't put your flag up unless you're sure. You cannot put your flag up in that situation. It's incredibly unlucky. I do think it was an onside good goal, and that this game should have gone to extra time. And based on the balance of the two legs, I think that would have been fair. I'm not going to spend more time talking about refereeing decisions, though. It's one of my least favorite things to do. I want to put it in the broader context. Because Real Madrid, somehow, some way, found a way in the Champions League, again, and are going back to the final, again. And there are two different parts of this. And we have to be able to hold these things together. The first part is the thing that it seems like in the post-game reaction I have seen that people are rightfully focusing on, which is the DNA, the cultural fabric of this club when it comes to this competition is remarkable. And that is real. And you know it's real because they do it over and over again. And you know it's real because it's not like it's one or two players who are carrying the mantle here, who are the ones that come up in these big moments, who are the ones who turn these games around and make you feel like no matter what the score is, if it's a Champions League game, especially in the knockout stage, Real Madrid's always going to win. You can go back to Gareth Bale's goal. Gareth Bale was incredibly underwhelming in his time at Real Madrid. But look at what he stepped up and did in a Champions League final when his team needed him. You can look at, Rodrigo has had huge moments. Federico Valverde's had some big moments. Obviously, you've got your Luka Modric's, your Benzemas, your Ronaldo's from years past. It's not just one or two players. And now you got Joselu, who has been at this club for a hot second, was never really supposed to be here in the first place, is just kind of a body that they acquired to actually have some kind of number 9, and gets thrown into the game trying to change something because, while Vinicius was spectacular and clearly the best player on the field, it wasn't leading to all that much. And so he's in the right spot at the right time to put home the rebound that Neuer spilled. And then he gets the second goal, which is a really good finish, by the way. It is so difficult to react that quickly with that kind of cross. And he puts it away, and now he's a hero who sent Real Madrid to the Champions League final. This happens over and over again. It has happened too many times for it to be a coincidence. You have to give the culture, the fabric, the DNA, and all of the players and the coaches who have gone into creating this a tremendous amount of credit, because it carries over from one generation to the next, from player to player. Joselu hasn't been part of any of this, and yet he was the one who stepped up and delivered in a huge moment for this team when some of the other players that you would expect weren't necessarily at their best. Again, outside of Vinicius, who was really, really dangerous and gave Joshua Kimmich all kinds of trouble. Then there's the second part of this, which cannot get lost in celebrating the first part. Yes, it is unfair to categorize this as luck. Real Madrid have done this too many times. It's for all the reasons I just laid out. This idea of, okay, they fell behind to an Alphonso Davies goal. The way that they responded, that is cultural. That is what they do. There is something special. They make that happen. It's why you see them do it time and time again. However, if they go on to win this Champions League and then get Kylian Mbappe, and then all of a sudden we're talking about maybe they're the best team in the world and everybody's chasing Real Madrid. Context matters. Look at what it took to get to this Champions League final. And if they don't win it, it doesn't really matter, for all of the reasons that I'm now laying all of this out, because we don't like talking about this part, but I'm adamant that we do. And nobody's going to care if it's just the reality of sports. If they lose to Dortmund, nobody cares. But assuming they win, it took, they haven't been particularly good throughout this Champions League run. It took penalties to get past Manchester City. Now, that's Manchester City. That in and of itself is not by any means something to criticize or question. I'm just pointing out here that had they not won a penalty shootout, they would not have even been in the semifinals to begin with. Had they not gotten an incredibly fortuitous refereeing mistake, they very well could have been headed to at least extra time and possibly penalties again. Against a Bayern Munich team that is just not that good, with a manager on his way out. If Real Madrid is clearly one of the two best teams in the world, the team everybody is coming after, it should be easier than they are making it look. That has been my criticism and my point and my thing that we don't seem to talk about. If they're really this good, they should have blown Barcelona out of the water last season instead of letting Barcelona essentially walk to a league title. If they are that much better, it should show in La Liga every single season. Champions League is different. It's why you've got to separate the two. Winning La Liga when there is basically no competition doesn't do anything for me. You cannot use this run and this competition to say they're better than Manchester City, they're better than Liverpool, they're better than Arsenal, they're better than everybody, they're the best team in Europe, best team in the world. Because what conversation are we having if Manchester City wins that penalty shootout? or if that De Ligt goal counts, he's onside, and Bayern win that shootout. We're talking about how Real Madrid just lost to a Bayern Munich team that isn't even sniffing the Bundesliga this season. That's how quickly the narratives change. So you can't put too much stock in them. I just want to bring this up again because it was what I was sitting there thinking about as Real Madrid got this huge break and as they won a penalty shootout. Now, yes, there's skill that goes into penalty shootouts. Again, that was Manchester City. I'm not trying to take that away from them. All I'm saying is the path from winning in the round of 16 to getting to the final was a penalty shootout and a very, very controversial victory in a two-legged tie that should have been much more comprehensive than it was. If Real Madrid are really the best team in the world, because Bayern and Over, they're what? Between 5 and 10, maybe? Second best team in Germany. There are 3 teams in England at least that are better than them. Real Madrid's better than them. Can have a conversation about the PSG's better, probably. Can have a conversation about the Italian teams. I would take Inter over Bayern. That's 6, 7 teams right there. So we have to be able to hold these things at the same time. Yes, this is incredible. This is a testament to Real Madrid. They have something special in this competition. It is exclusive to this competition. And I know Thierry Henry said this of, this isn't some random team. This is Real Madrid. This isn't luck. That is true to an extent. It is a combination of Real Madrid responding when they go down, putting that pressure on you, being the best team in the world when it comes to situations and situational excellence and situational execution. That's what this is. That's what the Champions League is about, is being able to adapt to whatever scenario, circumstances you find yourself in. They are brilliant at it and deserve credit. That in and of itself, A, does not make you the best team in the world, and B, does not get you all the way to a Champions League final all the time. Because you can't just take away the fact that there was a huge refereeing mistake in this game. Did Real Madrid deserve to win? Probably. If I had to pick a team. But they were nowhere near dominant enough and comprehensive enough in terms of taking their chances. This easily could have gone Bayern's way. And so I just, as we're talking about this, and if they win this thing again, my 2 things, because the talking about all of the brilliant stuff is easy, it's obvious, it needs to be acknowledged. I want to dig deeper, though, and challenge the narrative just a little bit, and make this a more nuanced, in-depth, intelligent conversation. One is, don't compare Champions League to league. I've been consistent about this. I talk about this all the time. It's one of my big pet peeves in sports. The second is, the way you get there matters. And this was not Real Madrid just finding a way and responding. Yes, that is part of what happened. The other part is Bayern probably had a good goal wiped off the board because the referee didn't do their job correctly. Does that mean Real Madrid would have lost? No. But it also could have meant that it would have taken 2 penalty shootouts to get to the final. Statistically, you're not supposed to be able to do that. And yes, I know part of that is skill, but also you got about a 50% chance of winning a penalty shootout. They basically played 2. I'm not going to go all the way to saying this is, but effectively, they came close to playing 2 draws over 2 legs consecutively in the quarterfinals and the semifinals, and found a way to come out on top of both of them. That is both a credit to Real Madrid, and you got to have a lot of things go right that don't always go right for that to happen. Both of those things can be true at the same time. They are both true at the same time. I just get real tired of trying to draw too many conclusions and lose sight of the bigger picture and what all of this really means and what it takes to win a Champions League title and what actually makes Real Madrid great in this competition because it's this situational brilliance. So they're in the final again. Their opponent, as everybody expected at the beginning of this season, and especially, halfway through the season as we entered the knockout stage of the Champions League, Borussia Dortmund. They were really good over the two legs against PSG. Yes, you got a lot of help from the woodwork. The ball just would not actually go into the net. It just wanted to surround it. I think it was six times total, 4 times in the second leg, if I've got those numbers right, the PSG hit the woodwork. Yes, part of this is just sometimes this sport is cruel. Part of this is Dortmund defended really well. Dortmund did a good job kind of picking where PSG were going to have their advantages. They were going to get them somewhere, especially when you come back home down a goal. You know they're going to attack from the first minute. You can't stop that entirely. I mean, it's Kylian Mbappe. So it wasn't like there were all of these clear-cut, how in the world did PSG not capitalize on these chances? It was a how in the world did PSG not score because they kept hitting the post. They kept hitting the crossbar. They just came so close. But it wasn't a bunch of bad misses. That is an important distinction to make. But Dortmund center backs were really good. Matt Hummels is now getting all of this praise. And yes, he was good over these two legs, made some really important plays, provided that leadership, all the stuff he was brought in to do. He's also been very shaky at times in this Champions League run. Not necessarily so much in these two legs. And specifically the second leg, he was very, very solid. Obviously got the goal that really kind of cemented this for Borussia Dortmund. At least made life a lot less stressful. And the thing that stands out to me about this run and this team, all kinds of maybe not all kinds, but there have been world-class players, multiple, who have come and gone from Borussia Dortmund during this stretch between Champions League finals, the stretch between Bundesliga titles, right? Basically in the post-Klopp era. You can go through your whole list, Obviously, the ones that immediately come to mind, Haaland, Bellingham, Jadon Sancho is not on the same level, but the hype surrounding him, the hype surrounding Ousmane Dembele in terms of their raw talent, right? Dortmund have some of the most sought-after young players in the world and guys who have turned into arguably the two best players in the world, or two of the best three, two of the best four in this stretch. And didn't come all that close to reaching the Champions League final. Who are the guys that actually reached the Champions League final? Mats Hummels at the end of his career, Nico Schlotterbeck, who has not been anywhere near as good as I thought he would be for Dortmund. I've seen him have some special, the DFB Pokal final. He was incredible right before he came from Dortmund. I really thought he might be the one to kind of solve their defensive issues, and hasn't quite gone that way. The midfield, Emre Can, Marcel Sabitzer, Jadon Sancho on loan because he got froze out at Manchester United and wasn't playing until he got back to Dortmund. Nicholas Füllkrug scoring important goals in the Champions League. Who, he's a fine player, but nobody's particularly inspired by him, whether it's him playing for Dortmund, him playing for Germany. Just kind of a dude. You can go down the list of... Obviously, Marco Reus has had a sensational career. Nowhere near the player that he once was, right? When you're thinking of the best players of this last decade or so for Dortmund, obviously he's up there just in terms of raw talent. Right, he's not Bellingham or Haaland, but he's kind of in that second tier of guys. The last Champions League team that made the final had Robert Lewandowski on it. That was right before he... This is the opposite. Yes, they still have young, talented players, but it's a bunch of veterans. and a bunch of guys who, Julian Brandt was kind of one of the young up and comers, and he sort of went up the ranks in the Bundesliga, got to Dortmund, but hasn't gone anywhere since, and is now very much in the middle of his career. Just a really good player, but the top, very very top teams in the world aren't knocking down the door for him, or else he would have left. It's an incredible story, and just a really really cool thing that a team like this can have the opportunity to go back to Wembley to try and, for the guys who were there last time, try and ease some of that pain and change the story for Royce to be able to potentially have this be, his last game as a Dortmund player, all of that stuff. And it really helped kind of restore my faith in this sport, that it is things like this are possible. It's why I get so irritated when we talk in finite black and white definitive terms about teams like Manchester City and Real Madrid. The Manchester City always win the Premier League, Real Madrid always win in the Champions League. It's not true. It's lazy. Because every once in a while, something like Leicester City happens, something like this random Dortmund team who has not been good this season, who is reeling from throwing away the Bundesliga last season, happens. It's what makes this sport special, because these kind of things do occur from time to time. And you see what it means to that fan base. The atmosphere in that stadium is incredible. And again, it's not like this is the best Dortmund team that we've seen. It's a bunch of kind of journeymen, some Manchester United rejects, guys who rejoined the club after going somewhere bigger and not having it necessarily work out the way they want, or, just kind of wanting to come back. And so we go from all of those feelings to having the same conversation about Real Madrid, 24 hours later, and refereeing controversy and all of the things that I don't like talking about when it comes to the sport, and all the things that kind of irk me. So we got the whole confluence of emotions here. But it is Real Madrid, Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League final. I'm going to leave it there for now. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. I'll see you next time.